Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Welcome to Innovating a Game Changer podcast. This is podcast number 17. Today we're going to look at the Google Ventures Design Sprint and how to take something through to innovation. We'll examine understanding the challenge, looking at divergent convergence, and also prototyping and testing. The focus of a design sprint is to get validation needed to maximize the chances of being successful and moving something innovative to the market. Design sprints can be measured in different ways, and so we're going to look at a few of those. This is an overview, and during the week we'll take you through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and show you exactly how to do one of these, move them into a workshop environment, and actually execute. I am your innovator. This is Nevarda Smith, and you're listening to Innovating a Game Changer podcast. All right, this is your innovator, Nevarda Smith. We're looking today at the design process as the introductions went through. So really, what is it that gets you a product to the market very, very quickly to get that customer feedback loop that we keep going over and over again? And what methodologies can you utilize to actually get there? Well, Google Ventures has a capability of doing just that. And what they put forward is a 5-day approach that starts on a Monday and ends on a Friday, and it really examines some customer challenge areas or customer pain points or problems that a customer is dealing with. And the whole point is to go through and take a look at exactly the problem area that you're trying to solve with that particular customer. So Google Ventures is a initiative that was set up by Google. It's a side company type thing. It's an incubator, and they really go through this process. You can get them at gv.com or just search Google Ventures to get down there, and you can talk about their story. But anyway, they launched in 2006 under the capital arm of Alphabet. And they've really invested in more than 300 companies that really push the edge of what's possible in innovation. So really taking a look at those challenges that they're trying to deal with and those exponential technologies that are out there and available. They're really heavily involved in healthcare, artificial intelligence, robotics, transportation, cybersecurity, and agriculture. And their companies are really trying to push the envelope on innovation, and they look at world-class leaders in these spaces. They bring together a group of engineers, the designers in the medical field. It's really physicians, scientists, marketers, and they really look to bring those people together in a collaborative way to actually move things forward. So that's a little bit about the Google Ventures story, but if we take a look at what we're talking about specifically today, it's really around the design sprint and what you can do getting out of that. So the design sprint itself is that 5-day process that starts on a Monday, and I am going to go through at least another 5 of these, and I'll take you through day by day the process that I've actually implemented that's really based on the design sprint. It's also based on a book called The Design Sprint. It's a practical guide for building great digital products, and that is an O'Reilly book. And again, I'll put some information in the bottom here so you can actually search that to find that book if you're interested in that book. Please, again, follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I put links directly to those books. You can just click on them there and get right to those particular books. So what are some of the benefits of the design sprint itself? Really, the main thing is the design sprint has these 5 phases, and each person talks about these 5 phases differently. But it's idea, build, launch, learn, get that feedback loop. The book that I'm looking at called The Design Sprint by O'Reilly, it talks specifically about the idea being understood at the start. They then go into an activity of divergent and convergence, research and examination. Then they build a prototype, and the last phase of it is really getting that test feedback from the market. So it's setting up one-on-ones with your customers and having them utilize the product and get feedback from that particular product. And what does it do for us? It does a number of things. It really gives us the capability within 5 days with our cross-collaborative team to examine a particular customer challenge, take that challenge all the way to the market, get that feedback, and really determine whether or not that idea is worth pursuing. A lot of the time, if we take the startup arena, a lot of the time we see individuals in the startup space actually come up with an idea, and they believe in the idea so much that they just go ahead and they force forward to build that idea out. A lot of startup companies then fail because they didn't have the support structure in place to really push forward with that idea and get that feedback from the market to even understand whether or not an idea is actually worth pursuing, and whether there's going to be a market for that idea when it comes to pushing it out to the market. The other thing really is the design sprints. They allow you to measure things in a number of ways. You can, from an enterprise perspective, as I work with enterprise organizations, an enterprise perspective, they want to see what's going on. And these enterprises typically set up innovation labs or innovation studios, and they're really trying to gauge what the success rate of that is. And a lot of them will take how many products did you actually get out to the market as the main metric. And I don't think that's a very fair assessment of whether or not the ideas that are coming out of the design sprint process or the innovation studio or the innovation labs are successful or not. I think you really need to look at some of the other metrics there. Again, if you're gonna stop an idea within 5 days, it's much better to have built it, prototyped it in 5 days, spent a handful of people, maybe six or eight people that have spent 5 days and burnt that money to find out that an idea really wasn't worth pursuing. And rather than building something for 6 or 9 months and then getting it out to the market only to find out that there's no market for it, I'd much rather spend the $10,000, $11 to $12, $15,000 early on, vet the idea, examine the idea, get the market feedback, than to go ahead and spend $500,000, $800,000, million, 1.5 million, what have you, to build something out over a 9-month period, only to get to market and realize two things might have changed. Number one, the market may no longer be available because it took you 9 to 12 months to get out to the market. Or number two, the market's moved on for it. So if you were to take an example of Pokemon Go for an example, let's say Pokemon Go got really, really hype. There was a lot of people playing that application. It was very, very popular. Everybody was into it. But it was short-lived. If you were 12 months ago building a product that was going to piggyback on Pokemon Go or take on the virtual reality, the augmented reality gaming area, you would have missed your opportunity. You would have had to hit the market really, really fast. And I think Pokemon Go too, with some of the issues that they had with it early on, was another reason why they lost some of their customers. One in particular was the search feature inside of that application that just wasn't working correctly. I don't know whether it was overloading their servers or what it was, but this was the one where you actually went down and could track down the Pokemon that you were after based on how far they were away from you. It just didn't work there at one point. I'm not sure if they fixed that now, but that caused a lot of people to basically walk away from it, because they were searching and they couldn't find these Pokemon out in the real world. So again, you need to validate these things and get them out to market as fast as possible. So what if we talk a little more about the benefits there? You can really see that the benefits to a company can be measured in multiple ways. Number one was how many successes have you had? How many things have you pushed to the market? Another way is really how many things have you stopped going to market because there wasn't a market for it. I think that's highly valuable. That's the one we were just talking about as well. It can also change a company direction. It can cause team alignment. I like to use workshops as a way to bring across distributed people in an enterprise application, especially if they're all over the world or America, bringing them all together now. Flights may not be a realistic expectation for an enterprise to bring people in from maybe offshore development, but you can certainly use the Skype tools to get people involved and go through these sessions as well. It's a little bit harder that way. I'd much rather having everyone in the room, but you can definitely do it using the new technologies and spread those out over the particular areas. So team alignment is really, really important. If you can work very fast from 10 a.m. through to 5 p.m. every day except on the last day, which we run 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. On the Friday. But if you can bring people together for that specific amount of time, the laptops are closed, they're working on solving a particular problem, they're working on examining the problem, it really, really helps you drive this process home. This is a great way to workshop ideas and actually get a prototype out that's going to be tested on a Friday. Behind the scenes, if you talk about what's really happening in this workshop environment, the workshop itself, because it is going only over 4 days and you need to be ready to go straight into Friday with a working prototype so you can get that feedback from the market that you're going after, whether it's your existing customers or whether you've got some focus groups set up at the end of this. It really puts pressure on the team to actually go ahead and focus on the task at hand. Again, I'm going to be talking a lot over the next few days about, I'm probably going to run a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and put one of these videos out every day that's going to talk specifically about what do you do on Monday, what do you do on a Tuesday, what do you do on a Wednesday, what do you do on a Thursday. But again, if you go to gc.com, you can take a look at these things really. It's really... Before you kick it off, you set the stage. There's a checklist in here that gives you the capability of making sure that you've got the room set up, that you've got the equipment that you're going to need, which is really Post-it notes and whiteboards and pens and paper. We don't do any video. We don't do any computers in the room at all, except for one, and that's only utilized to put on the screen itself, so that you can put the checklists up. You can talk about the things. You can do some research if necessary as you're going through this. Monday's really the structured discussions that create a path for the sprint week. So you go over the whole process of what you're going to be doing over the next 5 days, and then you really focus on the long-term goal. What is the challenge that you're trying to solve here? So everybody wants to go immediately into solutions, and it's very important at this time that on a Monday you really stick with it. I like to go through the Monday video with Jade Cap and John. I set that up. I let them come in and I watch that. That gives them a bit of an idea of what's going on. And then we really focus in on the checklist itself and making sure that we're doing everything from a checklist perspective. Because again, people, especially technical people, want to go straight into doing the actual solutioning, because I mean that's what they're here for, right? They come in here, they're experts at solving problems with technology, and that's what they want to do on day one. But really focusing on what it is that's going on, what challenges that you want to address, process, and also journey maps are an output from this on day one. So a process, a journey map that comes out of this that really focuses in on the personas. And I talk a lot about the personas in other interviews and also other of these podcasts, is to drive everything that you do back towards customer value. What are you trying to solve from the customer perspective? So again, the inputs into a particular design sprint should also include those insights that have come about from those one-on-one interviews with your customers, from those focus groups, to try to understand the challenges that you really want to be facing. So if you start with that end in mind and you really focus in on this, you can go through the application itself that you're going to be building, taking a look at a specific individual customer or a group of customers and taking them through interaction with that product and going through that cycle, what the end state's going to be. And then at the end of the first day, what you really want to do is pick that target, right? So what is it that you're really going to solve? What piece of that problem will you be able to do in 1 week? And where can we have almost a clickable prototype at the end, whether that's going to be in a PowerPoint or a keynote presentation to go through. I like to take it one step further and actually download. I like to focus a lot on the mobile application space. So I like to be able to push that stuff down to a an actual mobile phone and get that up and running as fast as possible so that it actually looks like it. And there's a ton of tools online, ton of free tools online that you can utilize that can take images and connect them together so that it actually looks like you're really interacting with a particular product. And again, it doesn't take a lot to do that. Those things could be as simple also as just hand drawings that are taken a picture of and driven into the application. Paper prototyping is also a good way of doing this as well. So on Tuesday, now you have a full understanding of the problem. You've already chose that target that you're going for this particular sprint. So now you're going to focus in on solutions. So this is where the IT people really get inspired and drive those things forward. They're going to have a look at the existing ideas and see how they can remix and improve those, see where they can push them from an advancing technology perspective. And this is where we really break out and we do some solo work here, because each person's going to sketch the idea and the particular solution that they're putting forward. We also, at this point, follow the 4-step process that emphasizes critical thinking over our artistry. So what that means is I always have a UX designer in the room, and of course they're typically a person that came up in the artistry field and they can draw really, really well. Now that adds a lot of value, especially in a workshop setting, to help people move forward and understand what this product's going to look like. But that's not necessary, and I always tell my IT team that it's not necessary to be very, very pretty. I don't mind if it's just lines on a piece of paper. I've got some templates that they can use that make their solutions look a little bit more clean. But again, I don't mind if somebody just draws it on a set of post-it notes and puts those things together, because again, moving those things around, thinking about it in a critical way, being able to move those post-it notes backwards and forwards as necessary to get a flow going from an application start to end state is very, very important. It's one of the most important things that can bring a team together to develop a common goal here. Again, we're focusing in on the customers here, and we've selected on the previous day, we selected a specific part of the problem that we're going to solve that we can actually go ahead and time box by the end of the week. Okay, so Wednesday comes along. We came in again, and this is a 10 to 5 day as well. We've got a stack of solutions at this point, so we go through those solutions and we take a look at which ones we're going to select. And I utilize at this point I've got little dots that you utilize for garage sales, and I give everybody a $3, $2, $3 $1, then they get a 75-cent one, a 50-cent one, a 25-cent one, and they also get 3 blue dots as well. And then each person gets those, and those are what they're going to utilize for voting. So all those solutions go up on the wall, and then everybody decides which is the best solution by basically how much would they pay for that particular area. So now we've got a storyboard that we can start to put together and weave them together. So we've identified those top parts of the solutions that are most important to the group as a whole. Again, if everybody is utilizing the $3 and there's 6 people in the room and everybody put a $3 on one of the particular parts of the solution, then obviously that's going to go straight to the top there, and that's something that we're going to want in our minimal viable product as we push forward for this particular project. And again, it's a voting by committee, and then everybody gets a say, and that's the best way to do it. So we take those sketches and we weave them into the storyboard, and that's going to give us a step-by-step plan. I also use something called swimlanes.io, which is freely available on the internet, to help us take a look at that interaction from a technology perspective. I'm typically working with mostly IT people and kicking these things off, so they really understand sequence diagrams very, very, very well. Those sequence diagrams are then put aside so that you can understand the customer journey from an interaction at a technical level. How many APIs does it need to call? Where do those APIs live? Is there a database involved? Is there some enterprise business suite involved? Is there a workflow system that's involved? That's going to really help them prioritize and put that step-by-step prototype out. Again, there's a checklist out here. Use the checklist. Make sure that you checked everything off before you get out of there. On Thursday, that's when we're really taking the storyboard that was created before, and what we're going to do is we're going to build this into a prototype. Again, you can do, your UX person is going to be very, very helpful here. You can use Keynote, you can use PowerPoint presentations, you can use tooling that's necessary to get you to that prototype in one day. I have been in certain sessions where we've actually done that using AngularJS as well. Of course, there's a lot of programming involved in that. I don't really recommend that unless you've got a room full of experts in that space. It's much better to design some stuff very, very quickly using Photoshop or one of the other graphical tools. Throw those things together and then really get them into the clickable prototype, because the clickable prototype is going to go into the testing on Friday and get that customer feedback again from the one that you've set up on Friday. We're going to also confirm the schedule, who's coming in, when they're coming in on Friday. We're going to review the prototype and then really write the interview script that's going to really drive home what it is that we're trying to get out of that when we meet with our customers again, to see if there's actually a market for this product. The worst thing that happens is that you move forward with a product that doesn't have a market, and tomorrow, being Friday, is going to let you know whether or not you have that market or not. So on Friday, you're going to you look at the sprint that began with a big challenge. I like to also have taken pictures all the way through this and put those into a slideshow presentation so that everyone can understand exactly how far they've come in just 5 or 4 actual days. The prototype is then demonstrated, and it actually pushed it out to the interviews with the customer. So typically, I got a full day of interviews here. We try to interview 4 to 5 customers, or we do a couple of focus groups by looking at that. Focus groups can has their pros and cons as well. Individuals in one-on-ones are also a better way to approach that, so you can actually have those one-on-one interviews with them. Sometimes I have multiple people in the room to ask different questions. I have found that the one-on-one interviews are the easiest for the identified customer or the identified market participant to actually be open and give you freely the information that you're looking for there. Again, there's a checklist for Friday, and then there's interview customers and summarize the findings. There's a great 5-act interview out here on YouTube as well. So, take a look at this. Again, all this stuff can be found at gv.com, which is really the Google Ventures. If you type in gv.com/sprint, you will find all this there. Again, the 2 books I've really used is the Sprint book that Google Ventures has put together, and then the Design Sprint book that's a practical guide for building a great digital products is also out there as well. I highly recommend both of those. I fully suggest adapting the process. Stay with the core values of the process itself, but making sure that as you're going through this particular process, that you build a workshop that works for you. So at the end of this, do a retrospective. Do the standard Agile retrospective. Find out what worked, what didn't work, what you could make better. I always find if I've got an application or a keynote presentation where we're actually going through this in a very formal, time-boxed way, we're going to get better results at the end. I always use my egg timers as well to keep people on track. So any parts of the sections that we go through, any parts of the workshop rounds that we actually address, time boxed into their 15, 20, 40, 35, whatever it is, section. When the bell goes off, we stop and we move on, because the whole thing is to build upon what you've already learnt. And if you get bogged down in one area, you're never going to finish this particular process. So this is a great way to start innovation in your enterprise application. Read these 2 books, translate them to workshop activities, workshop rounds, build the 5 days so that's very, very structured. Get those books, understand them, and then really start to drive it back into your enterprise itself. So if your enterprise isn't ready for innovation, start up an innovation club. Get some people that are interested in doing this as well. Then start to petition from that innovation club. Learn these things. Watch these videos that are out there. Learn as much as you can about the innovation process, and then start to take that through to your executive team to show them what is actually possible. Some of the other workshops that I do, the Ideation Acceleration Workshop, which is really focuses in on SWOT analysis, features down to acceptance criteria activities that come out of SAFe 4.0. We look at fishbone analysis to define the particular problem area, the standard customer journeys that you take through an application, and really understanding how that customer works and integrates with your product. All of these are standard design thinking approaches, and you should take activities to keep your workshops fresh. You should build new activities that result in the same outputs but allow a person to look at something in a different way. That keeps everything fresh and keeps everybody moving forward. I wish you the most success you can getting this through to your organization. I think it's a great way to start it. If you can get your enterprise organization to spit off 5 days where you can actually do this, I would say again, prepare, learn as fast as you can, and make that really good experience for the people in the workshop and kick it off. So this has been a podcast number 14, and again, we went through the design sprint. I'm your Innovator Nevarda Smith, and I look forward to bringing you more topics like this. Thanks.